My picture's small enough that you can't see me too close.
Awesome. Thank you guys for being here. Sorry, kind of switched stuff up with for our Thursday goers. Threw a little wrench in it, but I thought, I'd like as many of us to be able to be live in this class as we could, and really didn't want Coach Tom to have to teach this twice with us because it's 9 o'clock where he is.
Yeah.
So he lives in Ohio with his super cute wife and three little boys, and good friend of mine. We talk all the time, and we just help each other try to be better coaches. And so when I was kind of going through the hormone thing, I thought, uh, would be you guys would all be better served hearing also from someone who has already been through kind of that part of his education and really knowledgeable there. So I think it's going to be a really good class. And welcome, Coach Tom.
Hey everybody. As Tiff said, my name's Tom. I've been doing nutrition coaching since 2020. So right at the end, middle or so of COVID is whenever I started doing this with my CrossFit coaching. Um, Felt there's a need because I had a nutrition coach who, yeah, well, nothing came of it. Worked with for 6 months and nothing. And every week it was just do your macros, do your macros. We never talked about lifestyle or things we're going to touch on tonight, like hormones and way to improve sleep, stress management, that true foundation of nutrition and fitness. So, been here for a while. Started getting into hormones 2 years ago or so when I started having my own issues and getting those treated for testosterone therapy. So, um, while it's a different hormone than what most of you guys are going to be uh, focused on, been down the hormone replacement therapy journey for a while. So, as far as the impact of nutrition and lifestyle on women's hormones, I mean, there's two main drivers, right? The female hormones, estrogen and progesterone, and those fluctuate and they impact metabolism, appetite, fat distribution. So, all that changes, 30s and 40s going on. But at the same time, lifestyle changes. Most of us in our 20s, 30s have had a change of lifestyle. So instead of being 20 and single or just dating or recently married, a lot of people in their 30s have an established career, children. There's a lot more stress happening, a lot more life happening. And so while there are hormone changes, know that they are not the mountain that you're up against. The mountain that you're up against is calories in, calories out, really at the end of the day, no matter what. Uh, but that doesn't mean we can't improve things on how we feel and how we produce results for ourselves. So as things progress through life and we have some fluctuations and changes, energy levels can drop, body composition can change. And when it's the perimenopause, so beginning late 30s, early 40s, and forward, those fluctuations become unpredictable. They change more frequently, less frequently, erratically. Um, and just a quick recap, estrogen plays a role in fat distribution, insulin sensitivity, muscle preservation. Lower estrogen can lead to increased fat storage, particularly around the abdomen. Very similar to how decreased testosterone for men produces a very similar result. Progesterone has a calming effect on the nervous system, and that supports metabolic function. So those two together help your body composition either change the way you want it to or fight against you. Then you add into that cortisol, which cortisol is something everybody can manage probably better. Mine's up right now. Um, and when that declines or changes, sleep disturbance happens. Um, sorry, when progesterone decreases, sleep disturbance happen, and then cortisol increases. Just to clarify those two. Um, and that can also contribute to weight distribution and cravings. Both things that no matter what you're aiming for, whether you're trying to uh, work on being leaner, work on being stronger, performing more, that affects all of it. Moving on to insulin sensitivity and blood sugar regulation, a lot of noise out there about insulin and insulin spikes, and this particular food will spike your blood sugar. Spoiler, food is supposed to spike your blood sugar. That's because you've taken energy in. Now, how it affects your blood sugar is going to vary on what it is. Obviously, chicken is going to have a lower response than a candy bar, but they're both going to have some changes. And trying to control and minimize every minute little change like that, like those continuous glucose monitors, don't stress over that. If you have a history of diabetes in your family, or you've had lab work that shows you're pre-diabetic and that there's some concern to monitor that stuff, yeah, that might be something to consider at that point. But for most generally healthy people, it's generally not an issue. But insulin sensitivity does come into play with hormone changes, male or female. And that also changes how our body will react to and process consuming foods in excess. With insulin, especially glucose or other carbohydrates, uh, glucose, fructose, all that, it's sugar at the end of the day, but it depends on what composition it is. If it's a whole food, it's going to have less refined sugar. If it's something like, again, like a candy bar, it's going to be refined, which is going to enter your bloodstream more. You might feel energy for a moment, but then have a crash, and those are never fun. But ways to stabilize that goes right back to the basics of nutrition. Are you getting a balanced plate? Protein, carb, fat. So having protein with a carbohydrate is a great way to slow that blood sugar over time. So have a big spike and crash. But also having healthy fats and fiber will also help maintain a lower overall curve of that insulin and that blood sugar. So that is something you struggle with. Adding more protein, fiber, and healthy fats will help that. But that also is just a general recommendation. I'd be surprised if Tiff hasn't already mentioned make sure you're getting your protein, fiber, and healthy fats because that's a basics 101. Um, but then also, strength training can improve insulin sensitivity and how your body processes food. Also, it's a great way to sneak in your favorite foods. If one of your favorite foods is Nerds Clusters, because that's me. Um, if you ever see a picture of my pre-workout, it's usually Nerds Clusters or maybe gummy worms, something like that. But I use that moment of my day to have a little fun in my food. And I'm going to be using, I'm working out. I'm going to ready to do CrossFit for an hour or so. So it's going to be used up. Yes, it's going to spike my sugar. That's what I want it to do in that moment. That's what you need a pre-workout to do is to elevate your energy levels that are available. And you can take a pre-workout too, but that's getting into other stuff. That's not this topic tonight. But then also, when it comes to hormones, there's also thyroid function and energy metabolism through that. So the thyroid regulates your metabolism and your energy levels, and there's some subtle declines here and there with function that is common as we age. But overall, it shouldn't drastically impede the potential to change your body composition. But as part of your routine lab works, your annual physicals, it's also something to talk with your doctor about. Hey, if it's not checked recently, what's my thyroid function like? Because I can change things. Hypo or hyperthyroidism can all lead to weight gain, weight loss that is more than somebody might want um, because there is too far on both sides. Fatigue, sluggishness, um, but ways to support that is going to come from your diet. So hopefully, you guys are sensing a theme here that nutrition and lifestyle plays a huge role in this, and the basics does most of that heavy lifting. I use a lot of CrossFit and exercise analogies, just FYI. That's my life. Um, so let's talk about some practical tips for this particular topic of hormone shifts in metabolism. So how can we assist the hormone shifts and maintain an energized metabolism as we go through life? Eat enough protein, get fiber, and that will help stabilize your blood sugars. It's also going to body composition, have enough fiber and enough protein. Strength train to maintain metabolic rate and lean muscle mass. There's, gosh, this is going to be like putting myself down for a second, but hear me out on this. I've been doing CrossFit for 10 years. If I've been doing CrossFit for 10 years, lifting heavy, competing, and I don't look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, it is okay to lift heavy weights, which is one thing that a lot of people are concerned about. They start lifting weights. I don't want to get bulky. I just want to tone. Tone comes from lifting heavy. You have to actively try hard to get bulky to where someone might say that someone's super muscular, looks like a man or whatever, but the majority of us aren't going to look like those people on stage at bodybuilding competitions because, first of all, they're most likely jacked up on testosterone, men and women up there on stage. We aren't at that level, but lifting heavy is important. I like to use the example of my mother-in-law, who does go to the Y regularly, was excited she went from a 5 pound dumbbell to a 7.5 pound dumbbell, which is great. I'm glad she increased her resistance. But I asked her if she picks up her grandson because he's 38. She goes, yeah, all the time. I said, so you can probably pick up 20s. Oh, I don't want to get bulky. But that goes into the whole thought of you're probably lifting more than those lighter tone weights that a lot of people say, do this to tone your core. Spoiler, there's no way to tone your core. You can work your body, which will affect your core, but you can't target train fat, fat loss. You can target train muscle. That's different. Anyway, strength train, right? Ensure you're getting adequate iodine and selenium for thyroid support. If you like seafood, this is your game right here. Comes from seaweed, comes from fish. Also Brazil nuts. I'm allergic to that. That's not my category. But those are three great sources of iodine and selenium to support thyroid health. So, getting into a more nutrient dense eating style for hormone balance. We talked about what hormones do, they fluctuate. But what are some specifics that I could do in my diet outside of those specific supplements on the regular to help me? And that's going to get into prioritizing a protein intake. If you aren't tracking your protein intake, it's a good idea to start looking into that. It doesn't have to be super scientific. You don't have to go to the milligram of what you're eating, but hand portions is a good way to go. You can just track your servings. How many servings of protein have I had? Am I getting at least a serving of protein at each meal and something as a snack along the way? If you want a specific target, something between zero point 0.6 and 1.0 grams per pound of body weight. And before anybody gets worried about you want to eat that much protein, it's also going to be dependent on what your goals are. Um, Anything around 120 or so is a good starting point. And if Tiff's given you any suggestions on specific macros for you to hit or specific servings of protein to hit, please listen to that. But if you're under 100, you're going to want to get above that. FDA recommends 50 grams a day. That's just to keep you alive. That is not to help you be healthy. So when you look at FDA recommendations, no, that is the bare minimum. But prioritize protein intake because that supports muscle mass. You support muscle mass, you get lean mass. One, you get more definition. Definition is that tone look that everybody wants to get. And then also it supports metabolic health overall. Balance macronutrients to support steady blood sugar. We already talked about that a little bit, combining proteins, healthy fats, and fiber-rich carbs to maintain a more balanced blood sugar. But again, please don't freak out about that too much. As long as you're getting protein with your foods, you're going to be okay, barring any medical concerns. But also include some omega 3s. Going back to the seafood we talked about, salmon. Salmon's a great source of omegas. Eggs also have omegas. And I know Tiff's a big supporter of grass and farm raised food, and so am I. Just unfortunately, I don't have as much easy access to that anymore. I need to find somebody around here who does, but that helps with overall health. Magnesium and omega 3s help with inflammation and stress resilience. Um, Inflammation isn't necessarily a bad thing. If you use the analogy of stress, inflammation is stress in the body. Without any stress, you're dead. With a medium level of stress, you're alive. With excessive stress, you're probably panicking. So it's a spectrum, right? We can't eliminate all stress because honestly, eating is stressful on your body. Your body has to do work to get nutrients. So That's getting really sciencey on the stress definition. But also inflammation isn't always bad either. Inflammation means you did some work if you're at the gym. That's that pump that people see after a workout. Um, but inflammation, you need some of that. It produces results to recover and grow more muscle. Chronic inflammation, that's different. That's where these nutrient dense eating habits come into play. So, some specifics on protein intake for muscle and metabolic health. We're going to talk about levels of protein. Um, but we can also, excuse me, look at the quality of our protein sources too. Grass-fed meats, um, pasture, backyard raised eggs, but then also getting into some more processed things like Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt's a great source of protein. Usually does not upset somebody's stomach if they're lactose intolerant. Usually it's a better choice there. There's still potential, but if it's a mild lactose intolerance, Greek yogurt's usually agreeable for the most part. But wild caught fish, farm raised fish, it gets into whether you like the texture, whether you like the flavor of farm raised versus wild caught. But there is a benefit to farm raised where there's a controlled diet. And so they might actually have more of the beneficial things, like more omegas, because they were particularly like force fed to be more nutrient. Um, but farm raised fish usually carries more fat because they're not out in the wild. Small trade off. But you can also get into veggies, lentils, and tofu, if that's more your thing. Those are good sources for protein. Um, I'm not the best when it comes to vegetarian sources of protein because I really enjoy my red meats and my chicken. So that's my preferred way to go. Also, my stomach does not tolerate vegetable protein powders. Just doesn't. And that's going to be something that you'll learn along the way. If you do supplementation with protein powder, what works best for you and your stomach. Um, Going back to balancing blood sugar, um, changing your composition of your breakfast in the beginning of the day is a fantastic way to kick off overall health through the day, but also it supports your metabolism, supports hormone production because you've been asleep all night. Maybe you haven't eaten since dinner. If dinner was at 6 or 7, you've gone about 12 hours now without food. So maybe switching up a typical granola bar and coffee out the door into more scrambled eggs with avocado on the side or with sauteed veggies. Uh, but that'll also produce more energy, support your hormone health because you're getting some healthy fats into your day to start the day, and reduce cravings. Anybody have cravings at the end of the day, afternoons? It's possible that it's going back to having a small breakfast or low protein to start your day. And while it's not hormone, that's more brain chemistry. But um, minimize ultra processed foods. So those ultra processed foods, while they're tasty, they're usually more easily digested. You don't have to chew them as much. And honestly, chewing is a way of slowing down how much you eat. So if you're sitting there chewing a salad, you got to get through all the leafy greens before you can actually just take it to your stomach. I haven't seen anybody except my 2-year-old shove lettuce in their mouth and just swallow it. But when it comes to potato chips, 2 seconds and they're gone. And that's why it's so easy to overeat those foods. But those easily overeaten foods lead to spikes in insulin and disrupt hunger signals. And there's a whole hormone system just on hunger signals. Um, and so you need to have the right hormones at the right level to feel hungry, to feel full. And those quick, delicious, snacky foods actually can decrease your hunger sensations. Sorry, your fullness sensations. They increase your hunger sensations because they're tasty, they're easily palatable. I had that backwards. I've been up since 4:30. Forgive me. But key micronutrients, we are talking about omega-3s, but magnesium, that comes from leafy greens, almonds, dark chocolate. So if you like chocolate, have some dark chocolate. That's the better way to go for health. Um, it reduces stress, helps with stress resilience to make you have a higher chance of rebounding from the stressful moments, and helps progesterone production. So magnesium is vital for women on that front. So are B vitamins and folate. Folate's a vital supplement for women if it's not something you get in your diet a lot. Excuse me. And any questions so far? Most of what I've talked about is what some of the hormones are and ways to support them, nutrients, but we're going to get a little more into gut and health there. So before I dive into that section, any questions?
I was gonna say it really just in the last, oh, I think year has come to my attention of the importance that fiber plays with our hormone regulation and being able to excrete the unneeded hormones that can build up in our body because I didn't ever that was something I didn't kind of think to hit on the other day when we kind of talked about supplements and things because we everybody wants to know about how do you balance your hormones, how do how do you do things better, and of course we know that a lot of it does just come back down to the basics and being able to keep those pieces in play, but even just something as simple as realizing that the why behind fiber, aside from the obvious of keeping our digestion on track, and that it actually does help regulate our hormones just with that. And that's not something I've known for a long time.
Yeah, gut health. There's a lot of gut health practitioners out there now that are all about how everything goes back to your gut. That's getting to the extreme of one side. Um, Tiff and I follow the same mindset here that it's never black and white. It's never far one way or the other. It's often right here in this gray area in the middle. While I'm not a huge fan of keto and carnivore, is it something somebody can benefit from at some point? Yes. How long is it going to be dependent on the person? Personally, not something I recommend to a lot of people, but that doesn't mean it's never a possibility. It's just never a possibility if you want to perform well in sports, but that's a whole different topic. So, gut health. Sometimes our digestive tract is referred to as the second brain because obviously your brain controls a lot of your body, but a lot of your body is affected by your gut. Not just your foods, but as Tiff said, the fiber. So having high fiber diet, one, keeps things moving, but at the same time, it does affect estrogen metabolism. There is an estrobolome, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's been a while since I've come across that term, but I was reminded of that when I was writing my notes for tonight. But it is a subset of gut bacteria that helps regulate estrogen levels. And if that gut health is compromised, that is affected, which then changes the way estrogen is metabolized, and that can become inefficient, leading to estrogen dominance, having too much estrogen floating around the system, which goes right back to what Tiff said about how if gut health isn't supported, then excessive hormones aren't taken out that aren't needed. So you can't have too much estrogen. That can lead to bloating, PMS symptoms, weight gain. So a lot of those common things that 30s, 40s, 50s you hear about. So again, is it because there's menopause or perimenopause or hormone changes there, or is it because of lifestyle and nutrition? And that's where a lot of doctors now, and this is a soapbox of mine, need to start talking about nutrition and exercise on a regular rather than just going, okay, what's wrong? Here's a pill. Or what's wrong? Oh, it's this diagnosis. Is it that diagnosis, or is it the fact that this person lives off of McDonald's every breakfast, skips lunch, and then dinner there's a binge because they've starved themselves all day? If that's fixed and they feel better, does the rest of the things improve? Maybe not, but there's some potential there. And I think that's a big miss to not take gut health and overall nutrition into play when we start talking about estrogen and testosterone and overall hormone changes, thyroid, all of that. So, fiber supports gut bacteria that affect estrogen metabolism. Also, the probiotics and prebiotics that can help support your gut as well, because those prebiotics help feed the good bacteria in your gut, because you need both good and some of the bad bacteria for a balance, right? But excuse me, um, don't know why. Um, anyway, fermented foods can introduce beneficial bacteria and aid in digestion. But at the same time, if somebody has IBS, watch the fermented foods because you don't want to upset your stomach in that regards. That's a whole other ballpark, a whole other conversation. Um, but having a diverse gut biome is important. So if one team of bacteria starts overpowering all the others, you can have gut disruption where all of a sudden the stool is not the same. And so no one enjoys running in the bathroom on the regular. So you want to watch having too much fiber because that's also an issue. Too much of a good thing. But having the right blend of fiber, leafy greens, whole grains, that's a huge part of that. That will help support your biome in your gut, which supports your estrogen metabolism, which supports you overall. Also, gut inflammation, chronic stress. If someone drinks alcohol a lot, continues to have a large portion of their nutrition as ultra processed foods, that contributes to hormone disruption because of that chronic stress on your digestive tract. So you start limiting some of those things, start feeling better. And that's why some elimination diets are great to get somebody started. And that's my personal thoughts on keto, carnivore, vegetarian. It's a way to eliminate those more processed foods because those diets are very hard to do with processed foods. But here's some things that will support your gut. Collagen. Collagen supplements are great for your gut health to support your overall digestive tract, but also nail and hair. So that supports that too. Helps with brittle nails. If somebody has fragile hair, um, breaks off a lot, thinning, collagen can help. Zinc and glutamine. Zinc, a high source of that is going to be pumpkin seeds or other seeds. Glutamine comes from chicken and spinach. Chicken and spinach are two very common things people think about on a diet. So, by all means, load up on that stuff. Start there with fiber-rich foods. So these are some practical things you can apply. Start there with fiber-rich foods, greens, flax seeds, berries, protein. Uh, while protein's not fiber-rich, it is a way to help those foods help your gut because again, having a balanced plate. But greens, flaxseed, and berries. Berries are actually very high in fiber and low in calorie. So when those berries go on sale at the store, load up on them. Um, if you have kids, they last like 2 days, but uh, enjoy them when you can. Berries are great. Grab and go too. Reduce processed foods and alcohol. That probably doesn't sound too unfamiliar, right? That's pretty common on how to just overall fix nutrition. Um, but then also include some fermented foods from time to time. Even just yogurt, adding yogurt to your day is helpful for the not fermented, sorry, the probiotic effect. Do you want to take a probiotic? Not necessarily, because you could overdo it and then that can cause digestive issues for you too. So again, don't supplement unless you have to. My last talking point tonight goes to the foundation of everything, sleep and stress management. If you're sleeping like crap and your stress is off the charts, you're going to feel like crap no matter how you do everything else. Your diet can be perfect. Your exercise can be perfect. You could be taking all the supplements in the world. If you're sleeping 4.5 hours and it's broken sleep and you're just always on edge, nothing else matters. Um, Poor sleep increases cortisol. Cortisol keeps you from sleeping. So it's a cycle. You have more cortisol going around, you have a hard time sleeping, you have a hard time sleeping, you have more cortisol. So getting better sleep can be helpful. Sleep is also where our bodies recover. So just like computers, they always seem to work better after a restart, right? If something's acting slow, not running right, restart the device. Sleep is how you restart. It's your refresh button. And if you're not refreshing, your body is not recovering. If your body's not recovering, you're not growing muscle, you're not losing as much body fat as you potentially could. Can you lose body fat while still having rough sleep? Yes. Is it harder on your body? And is it going to be more likely less fun? Yeah. Not that losing fat's fun because you have to be in a deficit, but it's going to be harder and less fun if you're sleeping terribly. On top of that, that's where your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems get to calm down and refresh. And that's kind of your fight or flight system and just generally your body's control system. But when those are stressed, everything else is out of whack. And that's where the most of the hormone imbalances come into play is terrible sleep. Doesn't come from life changes. It doesn't come from microplastics in food or anything like that. It comes from sleep. And America is terrible at sleeping overall. So chronic stress and poor sleep, they drive hormone imbalances, especially cortisol and insulin, because insulin is going to be how you sleep. Um, if you have trouble getting to sleep, magnesium will help you get to sleep, but also having a snack like fruit, just enough to give you a little bit of bump in your blood sugar, release insulin, see some Z's. Um, so, secret there. Little snack before bedtime is actually beneficial for better sleep for most people. Again, this is a gray area. I have a couple clients of mine that if they eat anything within an hour before bed, they just have a rough night. Their body spends way too much time digesting food, and then that disrupts their body, and not a good time for them. Me, I can chow down a burrito and then head right to bed. I'm fine. Um, not that that's necessarily a good thing because I probably eat it too fast. Um, but what does cortisol do to you? How do you feel whenever cortisol is out of whack? Well, it suppresses progesterone, and progesterone is a calming hormone. So if that's suppressed, mood mood goes up. So mood swings, irregular irregular cycles of mood. Yes, we have ebbs and flows, like good moments and rough moments, but it becomes more erratic. It can also increase belly fat storage and disrupt thyroid function. Thyroid function helps control your body's storage of fat. So, again, is it your thyroid messed up? Is it your sleep messed up? Start with sleep. Always start with sleep and stress management.
The bananas are gone.
Uh,
I think so.
Bananas are great for going to bed, just saying,
Huh?
because they're starchy. I don't think that was meant for me, but it fit. Bananas are great. Um, Blood sugar and sleep. Getting a little more into that. Um, Actually, I got ahead of my notes, but poor sleep raises insulin resistance, make it harder to manage weight. So, again, poor sleep leads to weight gain. Also leads to more muscle loss if you're in a deficit. And if you're trying to lose weight and your goal is to go from 175 to 160, it's not going to be 15 pounds of body fat. If your sleep is awful, probably 10 pounds of muscle and 5 pounds of fat. And then visually in the mirror, you don't see much of a change because body fat overall hasn't changed that much. And that's where we lose the whole, well, I want to lose weight. Yes, yes, you want to lose weight, but you want to prioritize body fat loss from that. Sleep. Sleep is how you do it. At least the driver of it. So have a balanced dinner, protein, fiber, healthy fats helps reduce those blood sugar crashes at night, which spikes your cortisol, which makes you wake up. So if you have trouble and you wake up at 2:30 every night, when was the last time you had food? Did you have a bedtime snack? Are you taking magnesium? Check those things. Um, as far as ways to make sleep better, Um, Having a bedtime routine. It's pretty common now that phones will have a, hey, it's time for bed type of alarm. Um, at 10:15, my phone goes into night mode where my screen goes black and white. It decreases its overall performance, so it runs slow, which is frustrating. But it's frustrating on purpose so that I go to bed. Um, you might not have to go that extreme, but even just having an alarm. I know I want to be in bed by 10. So I'm going to set an alarm for 9:15 as my reminder to get ready for bed. That gives me time to get my breakfast set for the next day, anything I need to get arranged. Hopefully by 9:30, I'm heading upstairs, brushing my teeth, pajamas, whatever the bedtime program is for you. Hopefully by then you're in bed by 10. That's the whole idea of a bedtime alarm. Um, but other things that can help with that is reducing blue light. Blue light is very disruptive to your circadian rhythm. If that's disrupted, your hormones are disrupted, and then body fat loss is disrupted. So blue light reduction can help that. They have blue light glasses, but also our phones. A lot of our phones now have a setting to reduce blue light or add a blue light filter. It's probably weird the first day you use it, but after day two, you're fine. You'll notice no differences. But um, try to limit your screen time within 60 minutes of bedtime. The irony of me saying that right now. Um, but outside of electronics and magnesium, herbal teas, things like that, which I talk about herbal teas, but chamomile and lavender are great for sleep. I've even heard people using essential oils too. I'm not a big believer personally in essential oils, but the lavender scent can be calming and help you sleep. Chamomile tea does work; it'll knock me out. Um, Breath work and nervous system support is huge for better sleep. There's a lot of podcasts and YouTube channels and just probably something on Spotify for breath work. Great ways to calm down, control your breathing, control your stress. Um, Yoga. Do a small yoga routine. Just a little bit of stretching. Release some of that stress in the body. Yoga sounds a little more fringe for some people, but honestly, yoga does great with reducing stress. Makes you more mobile too, which is always a nice little benefit. But yoga, even just meditating, thinking back through the day, what are some great things that happened today? What's three things that I'm grateful for that happened today? Do a gratitude journal, or at least think back. So today, three things today. I was at a CrossFit seminar on Saturday, which reinvigorated my coaching desires. So I felt like I was a better coach this morning. So there's one. Um, I made it through my squat programming today. There's two. And then when my boys got home from school, we talked about what they did at school and planned their spirit week because they have spirit week this week. And it was great that my oldest was talking about working out, how he wants to go to the gym with me. So he's 7. It's cool to hear him say that. So there's my three things for the day. They don't have to be that elaborate. It could simply be, hey, I went through Starbucks drive through and I got just a cold brew with one pump of vanilla instead of my venti triple shot whipped cream frappuccino thing that's 800 calories. I made a better choice for my coffee. I'm never going to tell you to give up coffee. I'd be the biggest hypocrite of a coach if I told someone to give up coffee because I'm not. Um, this is tea, by the way, not coffee. But
I'm
avoid
happy
caffeine.
to hear that because she makes some bomb coffee. It's amazing. And I don't mean just like she makes a cup of coffee. I mean like she has her own coffee brand. So I'm going to give her a little, yeah.
There's a donut shop out here, which, by the way, I get donuts every Sunday. So don't think you have to give up donuts if that's your thing. One day a week, I grab a donut with my family. Does it slow my progress? Yeah, maybe. A little bump in the road. Am I better off for it? Yeah. My stress is better. Um, so anyway, practical tips you can apply. We already talked about some magnesium, herbal tea, reducing I almost said blood light. Geez. Blue light, breath work. There's too many B words on my screen. Um, Yoga, but also avoiding caffeine in the afternoon. That actually supports melatonin production. So if you're one of those people who's like, yeah, I can drink a coffee at dinner and go to bed, you'd probably go to bed better if you had a decaf or avoided caffeine. Yeah, maybe after 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Um, but then also manage stress somehow. Journaling, go for a walk. Right now it's terrible for going for a walk, but walks are great. Um, walks without distractions. That's the important part. Breath work. Now, the last thing I have is just some supplementation suggestions. These are always suggestions. I never tell anybody they have to take these things. But if you want to take some supplements to maybe feel difference if this helps me or not, magnesium glycinate about 400 to 500 milligrams before bed. That supports progesterone production for women, reduces cortisol, improves sleep, helps insulin sensitivity, and muscle relaxation. All wins. Um, it doesn't help you get to sleep, but it can help you stay asleep. Omega-3 fatty acids. So taking an omega supplement, fish oil, reduces inflammation, supports brain and heart health, and hormone health. So again, good suggestions there for supportive supplement. Um, about 1,000, 2,000 milligrams a day is good. Krill oil is also usually a little more bioavailable, but also a little more expensive. If you get the fish burps, pop those things in the freezer. You won't, well, you most likely won't have fish burps. Vitamin D3 and K. Uh, Honestly, if you're not by the Gulf of Mexico or um, what's the Gulf out? Is it Gulf of California out there? Is that what it is? Anyway, if you're not by the southern border of the U.S., you probably need vitamin D. Vitamin D and K2. So vitamin D, K2 helps your vitamin D get into your body and utilized. But K2 directs calcium into your bones. Super important for longevity. Um, and for that, yeah, 2 to 5,000 international units of D3 and about 100 micrograms of K2. Not a whole lot. Um, but yeah, those do come together in some brands. I take mine separate, but that's because Costco gives me a giant bottle of vitamin D. Zinc, 10 to 30 milligrams a day. Take it with food. Do not take it solo or uh, lower GI issues. Um, but that does support thyroid function, hormone health, and immune health. Can help with acne, can help with inflammation, and it can help with estrol. I can verify that it helps with acne because thanks to my testosterone therapy, it's like being a teenager again because hormone levels shot up. But yeah, pros and cons. Um, B complex, especially with folate, because that supports energy, mood, estrogen balance, and nervous system health. Again, all great things. Um, B is one that is water soluble. You will probably notice highlighter yellow B, just so you know. That just means that you had extra and it's out. And then ashwagandha. It's a newer thing that's out there that actually I just started taking recently. It does support adrenal health, stress reduction, and sleep. And your adrenal glands is where cortisol lives. So if you have something to support your kidney health, it can help that function as well. 1,200 milligrams a day is what I take for the ashwagandha. Performance wise in the gym, it can also help you recover and be stronger. So that's a win. Um, and then a bonus creatine. Creatine is just because it's awesome overall. It supports neurological, supports um, muscle, and then there's some studies out there for memory, actually. Like it's being studied in seniors in healthcare facilities for dementia prevention or reduction in dementia symptoms. Not that we're necessarily in that category, but it's just pretty cool that they're using it for that too. But helps with recovery, helps with strength, helps with energy availability. You're not going to notice some like, giant switch being flipped, but over time, it supports all those other functions to work better. Um, 5 grams a day for creatine. unflavored powder in any beverage you want, any time of day. Take it every day, no matter what. Um, and that takes care of my list of supplements. So it's not a whole lot. And again, only if you like you want to take it or try it. If Tiff didn't suggest Chronometer, that's what I use with all my clients, and it helps you see your micronutrients. I'm not familiar if MyFitnessPal does anymore. I stopped using it years ago. I've heard it's gotten better. I still don't trust it, but that's just my personal preference. So that's that's just a little bit of scratching the surface on hormones and hormone health and how nutrition and lifestyle support that. The main thing is always the basics, always the biggest thing. And that's the one thing people seem to think the least about. In my world, people are like, oh, yeah, ice baths. Let me get a giant tub of ice that's 38 degrees at 4 in the morning because I need to start my day off that way. How about you just sleep an extra hour? That's probably going to do your body better. Um, but anyway, that's a whole little tidbit into majoring in the minors. These supplements aren't going to be the end of the world. If you don't take any of these supplements ever, the sleep, the breath work, that's going to do you more, a whole lot more. Um, a balanced nutritional diet will do you more. So that concludes my rambling for 47 minutes.
You're
Woo.
awesome. And I knew you'd give good, actionable, realistic things because, we joke about the ice baths and all the biohacks that everybody likes to talk about these days. But
Yeah,
truly, majoring in the minors, if you don't have the basics down, like I said, for anybody who watched the supplement video, you're never going to out supplement a bad diet and bad lifestyle. And when you start to get all these things together, then we can kind of look into some other things. And I like to add to what Coach Tom said. It's funny because when I just started learning even a little bit about hormones, I too have had some poor coaches in the past. And uh you know I always we made a big deal when I taught the class on carbs and fats about how important fats are for our hormones. Um, so when I was coached long term for I went into a fat loss phase, whatever. I think I've told a lot of you guys before, they had me really low calorie. Like I didn't know enough to know what was going on at the time. And also probably kind of sneakily of them, they would give me macro targets and I didn't, know the equations I tell you guys all the time of what, everything equals in a calorie standpoint, but they would give me my macro set and then I would just log off of that. And I didn't ever realize how low my actual calories were through this period. So I go through this whole fat loss phase. I'd already been losing fat, I'd already been being successful. But this was a group of coaches that is actually a really big organization that their job was the antithesis of what Coach Tom and I do. It was results, results, results. We're not going to be here to see the fallout on the other side of what happens. Because, I mean, results to the point of they paid me for my before and after pictures. Like just one day, the owner of the company messages me, "Hey, what's your PayPal?" And I'm like, "This is weird." Then later realizing, oh, I have no legal standpoint against him or anything if we've exchanged, Anyways, neither here nor there. But so very, very, very low fats. I did lose a lot of weight. Um, Whatever. I was also being coached that I needed low sodium, needed low sodium. So that was another thing that really didn't do me any good. And then shortly after all of this was when like Cooper went to college and just kind of lots of big changes in our family. Our adoption fell through. Shortly after, a little bit after that, well, just this last year, Grady got married and, or wow, that's over a year now. But, it was like bam, 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 bam. Oh, and then I hit perimenopause and I start doing labs because I'm like, man, what's going on? And at this point, I have I've gotten away from the fat loss cycle. I'm back to more eating normal. I continue to work out, but my persistent injuries that I kind of always deal with exacerbate. And so it's like all of these things keep happening and I'm like, what's going on? I know how to do these things at this point. I'm quite a ways into my education. And so I'm going, what's happening here? Well, as I have gotten a little bit more into learning about hormones and these things and everything Coach Tom taught us about, keeping the A, B's, and C's together, it makes me realize, okay, my fats were so low and overall calories that it was not conducive to helping my hormones be in their best state and be able to transport how they need to through my body. Um, I was eating pretty low fiber. They kind of pushed fiber, but not really. But it was more, just kind of hitting your targets of your macros. And like Tom said with his coach, it was like macros, 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 but they weren't worrying as much about the micros and the other things going on with from an overall health standpoint. So my fiber was definitely lower than it should have been. And then got so low with my calories for an extended period of time that then it's affecting sleep, which, like we just said, in turn affects hormones. And then turned into so like I said, I get some labs done and it's like, well, my androgen's kind of all over the place. My hormones are starting to kind of do some weird things, starting to get a little insulin resistant and just starting to see some things that are not characteristic of me and working towards, trying to be a healthy person and thinking I'm doing the right things. And so then it's like you're able to kind of look back and see this all play out in front of you when you're going, hey, this isn't what I wanted. And so I hope that so now I'm building myself up out of that. Um, so my point to that is a lot of what Coach Tom and I teach is going to be things that are really, it's probably not completely new information. Some of it is for sure, but to the point that these things that we teach and the ways that we teach you how to do them and how important they are is truly for a bigger reason than just, oh, this is, the ins and outs and the basics. Well, it's not just the basics, it's literally the foundation of your house. And if you have a fire in the attic, it doesn't matter, you know, you're if you've got things falling down all around you, other parts aren't going to matter if that's what you've been focusing on. So, um super appreciate Tom and hope you guys realize how important it is to keep these things. It's still good. Yeah. Um, seeing if something's still good in the fridge. Uh, I keep my fridge pretty cleaned out, but no, I just really appreciate that, and I feel like this is such a crazy important topic, and it is something that we can't really probably can't talk about enough. But I know Coach Tom and I have like a minute if anybody has any questions too, for sure. Please, please, please ask or even any comments because I think all of us are really in a age zone where we are seeing hormonal shifts and things go on and it's nice to have some, support through that for sure.
One thing I did leave out that you brought up, which is good, is dietary fat. Um, there's a guy I was talking to about a consult, and his previous coach put him at 40 grams of fat. 40 grams of fat is not going to support hormone health. More like 50 at minimum. But under that, you pretty much regardless of an individual person's height, weight, size, 40 grams of fat is not going to support you, not in a healthy way. And that's what Tiff was talking about, where they had her so low that she didn't have room to have 50 or 60 grams of fat. And then on the short end, maybe hair thins, maybe you feel a little more moody. On the far end, for women, the menstrual cycle changes and becomes irregular or disappears. That's bad. That is a bad sign of drastic under eating. And the thing is if somebody's already eating low and they're told to eat lower, it's going to suck. Uh, and that's why reverse dieting, which I know is the way Tiff coaches, eating as much as you can while getting the needle moved in your favor, that's the way to go versus eating as little as possible. So please don't be afraid to eat fat.
It's good. It's the best. I love that.
One of my clients said she was looking at butter for the first time ever because her whole life her family had margarine and never used butter.
No,
She's doing better.
I've started buying Kerrygold and it's a bad habit because I love it so.
Yeah.
That's yeah, we spend twice as much on butter now, but it's fine because I don't have the boys here slathering it on who knows what. Now it's just me and Lige, and Izzy doesn't really get into the butter. So as a
Um,
child, my mom may have found me on the counter eating butter. Please don't judge me for that. I really do like butter.
are you off of social completely right now?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody who is, um, I'll text you uh, my Facebook link. That if anybody wants to reach out, connect, ask questions, you're more than welcome to.
He's a good follow.
I post a lot of CrossFit things, so hopefully if you
It's a good
follow, don't
follow,
mind
especially if you like CrossFit.
don't mind the lifting. Occasional snake picture.
And he's got some pretty cool. I'm not really a fan of snakes, but his family snakes look pretty cool, I have to
I
admit.
said that to everyone. Oh, that's fine. I don't care. Public anyway.
But yeah, if anybody wants to say anything too before we bounce, please feel free.
Just in case anybody else wants that for later. So, yeah, I am an open book. I talk more than I probably should about giving away free info. So this is a great place to get realistic advice.
This is what we do and what we like, and we basically just decided and uh realized that we had really aligned values when we were in class together, and it's worked out well, I think, for our clients because we bounce off each other and send them to each other and everything else too. And so, yeah, appreciate you.
Well, thanks for letting me come on and talk, everybody. I appreciate you offering your time up to hear me drone on about basically just getting back to the basics. Nothing fancy, but it's
All
easier
the
that way.
super important stuff. But I think too, if you're like me, if you know why, if you have the why behind it at all, it makes it a little bit more make sense. Because to me, you know, I heard first start hearing fiber and I'm like, whatever, yeah, that's what your mom tells you. Eat your fiber, eat prunes or whatever. And it's like gross. And then it truly was when I realized the hormone thing. I was like, oh, actually, no, that's really important. Because I'm like, TMI, there's no TMI in coaching world, but like I'm regular. I've been regular always. I don't really have issues with that. So I'm like, whatever, I don't really need fiber. And then, kind of these hormone issues start to happen. I go, oh, fine. Maybe that is important. And I do like vegetables and stuff, but it takes quite a few to hit those goals. Don't be afraid to supplement. For
So
sure, for sure.
I'm
Cool.
going to head off to bed. I
Yep,
coach
that's
at 5 in the morning.
ew.
So
Gross.
yeah.
Sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
Thank you guys. Thanks for being here. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate
Yep.
Coach Tom. And we're halfway through, so let's keep trucking on and have a great week.
Have a good one, everybody.
See you guys.